Finding something that you're passionate about because you never know what's going to spark an interest in you. Finding something that you love because then you never feel like you're working. You feel like, oh gosh, I love what I'm doing every day. And as you start having successes, it's always important to remember that you're blessed not so that you can have things, but you're blessed so that you can give back.
Welcome back to Community Chronicles. Today, we are joined by Pamela Cooper, an acclaimed interior designer based in Somerset County, New Jersey. She is the recipient of multiple awards, such as the Best of House Award, and she's also been in multiple publications, such as the NJ Home and the Monmouth Magazine. Could you please introduce yourself for us, Pam?
Hi, Sean. Pamela Cooper, owner of Cooper Interiors out of Watchung, New Jersey. Happy to be here.
So, what inspired you to get into the interior designing space?
So it happened many years ago when I was a little girl, to be honest with you. My mother was the only adult in my friend group who had ever hired an interior designer. So I would sit in the hallway while my mother was meeting with the interior designer. And when she would bring out the fabrics and wallpapers and silk pillows, I was just like in awe of all of this beautiful stuff. So my mother could only afford to do one room, so we did our formal living room, and once it was done, it was so striking. Nobody I knew had coordinating window treatments with their sofa and the pillows and lamps. And when my mother would go to the grocery store, she'd go run errands, then I would go sit in the room because we weren't allowed in the room when we were young. But I would go sit in there and I was just taking in everything. And then my mother also allowed us to redo our rooms every couple of years. So I would get new bedspreads, we'd paint the walls a different color, I'd move the furniture around. So I feel like it was in my blood from a very young age.
So, would you say that in college, did you start really looking at more professional opportunities to pursue interior designing?
No, because I didn't think I would be able to make a living doing it when I was of college years. And I had to go out and pursue a job and bring money in immediately. At that time, I didn't know anybody who had their own business. So I didn't know how to get started. And all I knew was, okay, I got to pay for my apartment and my car. I need to get a job. So I went to work for the Limited clothing store and I was with them for about 17 years and worked my way up to a district manager. And then I got married and we moved to New Jersey. I didn't want to do retail anymore because I had already done that and I wanted to start a family. So I walked into a staffing firm and I went in and I said, I've never done this before, but I'd like you to help me find a job. And the woman there said, hey, why don't you think about working here as a consultant in helping people find jobs? Well, within a year, I loved it and I was good at it, the selling part of it. So I approached the owner about, hey, if you're ever thinking about selling your business, I'd love for you to consider. He said, meet me at the office the next morning. Unbeknownst to me, he already had the business up for sale. So I called one of the other women that worked at the staffing firm at Snelling Staffing. We partnered together and we bought the business from him, and that was 30 years ago. So then what happens, fast forward, is this is a business. And at one time, I had 7 Snellings all along the East Coast. And then once I had my daughter, Mackenzie, then I either sold them off or I closed them because now I want to spend more time here in New Jersey with her. So I was always passionate about design. But again, I couldn't stop doing staffing because my income would stop. So I started interviewing my friends who I knew had used interior designers before. And I just started questioning them. What do you like about using an interior designer? Why do you use an interior designer? What don't you like? Where has it failed for you? And that started putting in my mind, okay, well, I can do that. And I know this, and I'm a people person. So that can help get me started. And then a real good friend of mine, him and his wife were just buying a home in Basking Ridge. And he said, and they happened to be one of the people I interviewed, and they had used a designer before and they weren't happy with them. And he said, Pam, why don't you take 5 rooms in our new house and we'll pay you to design? And that was really what catapulted my career, was having somebody take faith in me that, yeah, you could do this. And I worked like a dog on it. I think I probably made 12 cents an hour if I really added up all the hours that I put into it, because I just was so grateful that they gave me the chance. And took the wife down to North Carolina, and we shopped at High Point for furniture, and it just turned out fabulous. And then that was the jumping off point for so many referrals of people who I still get referrals from them today, or I still do work for those people today. So that's what really launched my career.
So, in the present, would you say that your marketing strategy is geared mostly towards referrals currently?
100%. Probably, I think last year I keep a marketing report of where I get every job, and 83% in 23 was referrals. So that makes me feel so happy that the people that I've done work for feel comfortable enough to refer me to their friends or colleagues.
Wow, that's amazing. So, how would you say, like, when you were starting your business,
Mhm.
what were some challenges you faced?
So some of the challenges were I didn't know enough. I felt manufacturers at all different levels for different budgets. So I had to educate myself with different seminars and classes to understand who else was out there that aren't the most common names, but maybe they're niche boutique manufacturers. And I still go to North Carolina 2 to 3 times a year. High Point, North Carolina is the furniture capital of the United States, and I'm always meeting with manufacturers there. They have huge showrooms, or I can go to their manufacturing plants and see how things are made, but certainly going and seeing what's new for fall, what's new for spring, new lines, new materials that are coming out, because it's a rarity for me to be able to find a store here in our area where I could take people and say, okay, let's look at Schumacher materials. I can't take them to a showroom, but I can go to a showroom and I can now start getting samples of materials that I feel are beautiful or would work for projects. So I keep myself as educated as I can with my time to always embrace new manufacturers out there.
So, how would you say you keep relationships with your manufacturers? Because it seems like you need a great relationship to keep getting these important resources to design these beautiful homes.
Yeah. So and that's important. So I always try and align myself with whoever is going to be a rep that deals with the interior designers, right? Because they'll have reps that'll deal with retail trade if they have storefronts, but I always want to get in with who is the person who can help me, who would help me with orders and such. So then every time I go to North Carolina, I'm either definitely stopping in, maybe bringing them cookies, maybe going out for lunch with them, going out for dinner with them, because I have such a short period of time when I'm in North Carolina to cultivate many relationships. So if it's somebody that I feel like, okay, I have a real strong relationship with Barbara at Braxton Color, well, I might not go see her this time. I'll go see somebody else, because Barbara I've been dealing with for 15 years. She's got me. She's always has my back. If I need something pushed to the front of the line because we have a project end date that's coming up, and maybe the homeowner has an event, especially during COVID, that was very challenging because the supply chains were so backed up. That's where my relationships really helped me with getting my things pushed up, even though it still took longer than normal. But at least it's like, okay, Pam, don't worry, we got you. We're moving you up. So those relationships come in handy that way then. But you got to cultivate them. I send them Christmas cards. I'll call them on their birthdays. I know their kids' names. How are they doing? Are they going off to college? What's going on? You keep in touch on a personal level, like it was a friend of yours.
So, after you get those materials, of course, you need to outsource that towards contractors. For your business, did you hire contractors or do you find party freelance manufacturers?
Right. Great question. I'm not big enough to hire and have my contractors only work for me by myself. I'm a one person. I do have my assistant who works with me, but I purposely just keep it myself, because one of the number one problems that people tell me about, even to this day when they've worked with other designers, is that designer comes out the first time to do their dog and pony show of why you should use them, and then they never see that person again. Then they're handed off to other people, and they don't feel like that person is really the one driving the design for them. So that resonated with me. And I thought, okay, I'm going to stay small. And that way I can be hands on everything. Nothing is picked on any of my jobs that either I haven't picked out or I haven't approved after Danette has shown me some choices.
So, would you say that you also have a very strong relationship with your customers as well?
That's probably the most important piece of what I do, because if I don't get to know my customers in the beginning, because I always tell them, you have a choice whether or not you want to use me, or there's many other designers out there, just like I have the choice of whether or not I'd like to work with you. And it has to be mutual respect for each other, and they have to feel comfortable that what their dreams are for their house, that I can deliver it. So it's not just me saying, okay, I think I'm going to do this in this house, and it has no representation of that person at all. So you don't get to that point unless you really get to know your customers. So that I always feel like my job is to bring your dreams to a reality, not my dreams of what the design should be.
Could you tell us possibly an interesting story of a client that had possibly a special request for design?
Well, here's one of my best stories for clients. I had an emergency room doctor about 6 years ago. He had heard of me, so that was wonderful. So he knew he wanted to use me. He had just bought condo in Little Falls. And we met there and he said, I don't know anything about design. I don't have the time. I'm not going to be the person who picks anything out. He said, I'd like for you to go through my condo. I want you to do every room, and I'd like it to be well elevated, right? I'm a doctor. I entertain, so I want it to look nice. He said, I would like you to give me a budget. He said, and then I'm going to give you the keys to the condo, and I don't want you to give me a call until the condo is done. Talk about pressure. It was like,
Uh,
"Oh, okay, doctor. Yes, all right." So I had to get to know him, and he only gave me 45 minutes. Literally, I had 45 minutes meeting with him, and then I could not call him until the job was done. So I am trying to just pull out everything that I could from him, and I'm walking into an empty condo. So it's not even like I can walk into his existing house and say, okay, I see what your vibe is. So I had to just delicately walk through as many styles and options and ideas off the top of my head to see what he gravitated towards. So it took me close to 6 months to get everything ordered. We did architectural things to the house, paintings, wallpapers, moldings, plank walls, and added cabinetry. And that job landed up in Design NJ magazine.
wow.
So, and it's absolutely one of my favorite jobs that I ever did. It has a masculine feel to it, but if he ever got married, a woman or a partner would certainly feel comfortable in there. So that was one of my most challenging, because I had nothing really to go off of, but one of the most exciting, because he was like, I don't want to know you until it's done. And it was just wonderful, the reveal. I wish I would have videotaped it, because he was crying. This big burly doctor, a little on the gruff side, is in tears when he's walking through. That just made my day, made my day
So,
many times over.
you said that you could only meet him for 45 minutes. So, how do you just know that he wanted a room that would be designed like so?
Right. So he really trusted in me, because when I would say, okay, I'm thinking about doing a plank wall in different shade stains, he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I kept trying to throw out things, and he'd be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like, do you like leather? Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm thinking maybe a leather headboard, maybe in black or gray. He's like, yep, that sounds good. So I was just like pulling out things that I thought, okay, would be upscale bachelor like. And really, he would just kept saying, yes. Yep, that sounds good. Well, I don't know, or that's okay. He really just trusted in me.
So, that must have been your toughest relationship with the client. Could you describe us a very normal relationship with a client and how that goes?
Yeah. So typically, I'll meet with a client for the first time, and we'll spend an hour to an hour and a half, and they'll show me the room or rooms that they would like to have redone. Typically, it's usually just 1 or 2 rooms to start because they've never used me. So the trust factor isn't there yet. So they wanna give me a try. Maybe they've seen my work or they've heard about my work, but nobody other than this doctor has ever said, "I don't know you, and here, do my whole house." That has never happened, nor would I have ever expected even that to happen. So it usually starts out with 1 or 2 rooms, and then I'll meet with the client and we'll go through what is your vision for the room? How do you use this room? Because it's important of how a room is going to function first. I can make any room beautiful, but I want to understand how you and or your family is going to use the room. So I always start with what's the function of the room. And then once we go for there, once I'm in their house, then I get a sense of, okay, what do you like about your house now? Show me your favorite room that you guys live in. Are you the type of people that everybody puts their feet up on a table when you're watching TV, or do you like a more formal environment? So it's through a series of questions of understanding how they're going to use the room. And then once I have that, then I'll usually go into colors. Are there certain colors that you gravitate towards? There's certain colors that sometimes make people happy. They just love certain colors, blues or greens or grays. So then that sometimes will be my jumping off point as well. And then I always start with the biggest pieces in the room. I always look at the architectural elements in a room first, right? All the walls, the ceilings. I'm always looking at what can I do to enhance the bones of the room? And then we'll start with the big pieces. If it's a family room, it's going to be the sectional, it's going to be the chairs, a rug, and then it kind of goes from there once the hardscape is completed in the room.
So you said that your team is made up of just your assistant
Mhm.
and you, the interior designer.
Right.
Have you guys looked into ways to expand your business? Or are you willing to expand your business? And if so, how?
I am not. Maybe if this were 20, 30 years ago, but like I said, I like being a boutique small business. If I had other designers working for me and with me, I would never have the time to me personally pick out everything, me personally to show up every time something is installed, or me personally putting the accessories just so. I work crazy hours as it is. If I had other designers that I had to follow up on to make sure that they were doing it how I felt it needed to be done, I would never have the level of service that I do now. So I, by design, just keep it very boutique.
So since it's just you and your assistant, how would you describe your relationship between you and your assistant?
So she does all the behind the scenes work. Once I find a fabric that I like, she'll call to see, is it in stock? What are the sizes? How soon can we get it? What are the fabric choices that we have? Once orders are placed, she will then, we have spreadsheets that she keeps track, okay? And then she follows up to make sure that things are arriving on time, and then setting up, okay, when can we do an install? And then she works off of my calendar. Okay, I know Pam's free on this date. Great, we're going to schedule this install so she can be there to make sure everything goes smooth. She does all that behind the scenes stuff that is very time consuming and doesn't make me money by having to do that. What makes me money is being out there in front of people and designing rooms.
So like would you say that you were like a born businesswoman, or did you have to like learn your skills, your business skills over your lifetime?
I certainly wasn't obviously a born businesswoman. I think you took on roles that you felt comfortable with early on in life. You were a cheerleader, you traveled. We traveled extensively when we were growing up. So I was always being put in front of other people. So I feel like it was a learned skill along the way. Neither one of my parents had their own businesses. I didn't have any relatives that had their own business. There was nobody to mentor me, but I feel like having, certainly even starting with the limited, when I had 8 stores and I was a district manager, you learn how to manage projects, manage people, hire people, fire people, interview people. So that was a big stepping stone for me. My skills were honed the more time that I put into it. And then even with design, who I am as a designer today as opposed to where I was 17, 18 years ago is vastly different, mainly in my confidence of what I do today compared to when I was starting out.
And finally, do you have any advice for any aspiring businessmen or businesswomen or interior designers that are young and are willing to learn more about business in general?
Yeah. I love when I see young people that are interested in any sort of a business, whether it's my daughter when she had her lemonade stand in front of the house, right? Gives me such happiness because you're having to do something that maybe is uncomfortable, putting yourself out there in front of people. And there certainly is a high level that there could be rejection, right? So you have to be able to be confident and learn to be confident in yourself. But starting out, I would say you need to find something that you're passionate about. It took me many, many years until 17 years ago that I really felt comfortable enough to do something that I'm passionate about. Now it never seems like I'm working because I love what I'm doing so much. The other jobs that I had were just vehicles to an income to be able to be independent financially for myself. But it wasn't until I got into design full time that I felt this is where I was meant to be. And I wish I would have done it sooner because who knows what could have happened. But finding something that you're passionate about, and I don't think right when you're very young does that happen for very many people because you don't know anything about the world yet. So trying as many things as you can, but I also think talking to as many people, right? When you're young, you're always in the presence of your parents' friends, right? Or colleagues. So it's very important not just, "Hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing today?" "Mr. Jones, you're an architect. How did you get into that? What's that all about?" Because you never know what's going to spark an interest in you. Because it's so hard when people go off to college, you're 18 years old. What am I going to do with my life? You have to pick a major. You have no experience with anything. You've been lucky if you've had a job yet. So to figure out what you want your life career to be at 18 is just unheard of. But it's finding something that you love because then you never feel like you're working. You feel like, "Oh gosh, I love what I'm doing every day." And then conversely, you end up working a lot of hours just because you're so passionate about it. And then the other piece of advice I would give people is as they get going, as you start having successes, it's always important to remember that you're blessed not so that you can have things, but you're blessed so that you can give back. Because I really believe in giving back. And that satisfies me emotionally and charges me up and re energizes me when I can turn around and help somebody else get to where I am, or nothing to do with design and just go help somebody else out that can't see their way out of their situation, or they just maybe they don't have a mentor or a family member who is there to cheer them on. So it's important, and maybe just as women, it's important to constantly cheer on other women so that they feel like that they can do it as well. So once you get up that ladder, you need to turn around and help that next person up that ladder. So those are my words.
Thank you, Pam, for being on
Oh,
today.
you are so welcome, and I'm sorry I got emotional, but that's what it is. Those are my feelings, and this was such an honor to be here with you today, Sean.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please join in on another episode of Community Chronicles and see you later. Bye.
Bye.